Welcome to Classic Patronum, the channel dedicated to the times of old. So, there's been a lot of talk lately about the box office and how a certain superhero flick is now the biggest movie of all time. I have a problem with this sentiment, and in this video I shall attempt to tell you why. So recently, it was reported that Avengers Endgame smashed all box office records to become the highest grossing film of all time, unseating James Cameron's Avatar. While in a sense this is true if you only take into account crude dollar amounts, Endgame is not even in the top 5 compared to other juggernauts of yesteryear. That's because of one word which Hollywood studios would like you to forget. And that word is inflation. This is how it works. Say you lived in the year 1939 and you had exactly $1 in your pocket. The true value of that dollar would be equivalent to having $17.91 in 2019, adjusted for inflation. That's because over the years, the inflation rate, at least in the US, has averaged about 3.67% every year for the last 80 years. So it makes sense that while you would be $2 short if you wanted to buy a McDonald's Big Mac today, in 1939, you could get yourself and 3 other friends each a Big Mac and still have change to spare. Using the same logic in box office grosses, it suddenly becomes clear that Avengers Endgame is far from being the box office champ that everyone is celebrating. No, that title actually belongs to a film that came out 8 years ago.
God is my witness. As God is my witness, they're not going to lick me. I'm going to live through this, and when it's all over, I'll never be hungry again. No, nor any of my folk. If I have to lie, steal, cheat, or kill, as God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again.
On December the 15th, 1939, an estimated crowd of 300,000 people flocked to see the premiere of Gone with the Wind in Atlanta, Georgia, the primary setting of the movie. As Time magazine wrote 1 week later, the cinema event for which the US has palpitated for 3 years took place in Atlanta, Georgia, the premiere of Gone with the Wind. While the stars and bars flapped from every building, some 300,000 Atlantans and visitors lined up for 7 miles to watch the procession of limousines, bringing British actress Vivien Leigh in tears as thousands welcomed her, Clark Gable, his wife Carole Lombard, producer David O. Selznick, Laurence Olivier, and others from the airport. This wasn't just an area-specific hype. Gone with the Wind would go on to be the biggest box office movie worldwide, with the initial theatrical run lasting until 1943. That's 4 years of continual theatre screenings, not counting the subsequent re-releases from 1947 up until it was finally released on home video in 1985. These days, you'd be hard-pressed to find a movie stay for 4 months in the multiplex. Of course, with the rise of television and streaming services, the modern entertainment landscape is very different from the good old 30s. Back then, if you wanted to see any movie, you went to the cinema. So it's an unfair comparison for either Endgame or Gone with the Wind. But adjusting for inflation is a better suited metric that brings both movies to a level playing field. So with a total theatrical gross of plus or minus $390 million, Nowadays, Gone with the Wind would only be considered a mild box office success, but adjusting for inflation, that number suddenly jumps to over $3.7 billion. That's about $1 billion more than what Endgame has managed to cash in, which is absolutely insane. So my point is, the next time you see an article proclaiming a new release to have broken some box office record, take it with a grain of salt. Bear in mind that some other film in the past has probably accomplished an equivalent feat, if not greater. The true enemy that erodes the achievements of old blockbusters is the inevitable effect of inflation. But I guess Hollywood wouldn't want you to know that no other film in the past 80 years has been able to beat a film which, sadly, has remained largely ignored by the new generation. Not to look down on Endgame's achievements, I'm impressed with what Marvel has been able to accomplish with the idea of a shared cinematic universe and actually making it work. A true event film that unites the whole world over all at once is a cultural phenomenon that only occurs once or twice in a generation. While those who were alive in 1939 collectively went wild over Gone with the Wind, who of us will ever forget that thrilling feeling we got in the cinema when Captain America said,
Avengers! Assemble.
Well, that's it for this week's video. Do you think adjusting for inflation is fair when it comes to the box office? Comment down below and don't forget to like and subscribe. Once again, thanks for watching.